Yes, the history of my life goes back 81 years ago. I was born on the 20th September 1940 at Masaka's King's African Rifles first camp of the British Army in Uganda. My parents, my father is called Tekwaro Lango, a former soldier in the King's African Rifle during the Second World War. My mother is Mirika Akelo. Both of them come from Abala Parish by that time in Ogu sub-county. The war had already been going on since 1939. So we were moved from Masaka Technical School, which became Makasaka Technical School in 1941 to 1942. And we were brought to Bombo. When we were brought back from Bombo, the British Army, or the King's African Rifle, organized the families of the soldiers who had gone for the front, war front. We were brought back to our respective districts. So my mother came back around about 1944 and lived with me where I grew up. I should categorize my schools into two groups. One, conventional schools, from primary one onwards to university. And two, military training, which I acquired during my lifetime. So I went to Romo, subgrade P1, Ngai, in Uyam. I was, I think, about 8 years ago, because that was the nearest school we could go to. And it had only one class, that is primary one. So fortunately, when my brother came back from his service with the British Army in Kenya, he went and brought me back from Ngai to continue with my primary education in Agweng, primary 2 to primary 4. That was the highest class we had in the whole sub-county of Ugur by that time. From there, I went and had a 1 year Peace 5 in Adogo Primary School. And then I went to Ngera Full Primary School. It was called Full Primary School because it was primary 6. The education system of that time was from primary 1 to primary 4. You must do some little examinations to go to primary 5 and 6. So I went to primary 6 at Ngeta Boys, and it was then called Full Primary School, P6. After that, we had to do some examinations for junior secondary school entrance examinations. So I did very well, and I went to Aloyongom. We were the founders of Aloyongom Junior Secondary School from 1957 to 1958. That is Junior 1 to Junior 2.
What about education? Because if you put education back then and put education back now, and now I'm doing education now,
yes.
And you compare the two.
I think a primary 6 candidate preparing himself to go to Junior 1 and Junior 2 examination is much better than a Senior 4 student of today preparing himself to go for the Uganda Certificate of Education. Take it from me, especially on rare cases where these students have gone to private schools, which not all Ugandans can afford private schools. Look at Lango College, what they produce every year, their performance. They have not sent even one student from Lango College on sponsorship by the government to any university. Yes. And a private school which started just yesterday, St. Gracious Secondary School, here in Anai, are sending 6 on government sponsorship. And all of them are science candidates, doctors, food nutritionists, and what have you. But a college, I think only one. Whereas Comboni none. Tell me. The whole of Lira has sent, I think, less than 12 on government sponsorship to all the 9 universities of the government of Uganda.
Is it because of the population?
No. Poor performance. Poor performance. You can imagine St. Mary's, Kitente. 100 plus are going to all these 9 universities of Uganda on government sponsorship. That is one school producing 100 and so. Lera, Apart, Uture, the rest of it, call it Lango region, is sending less than 12 on government sponsorship. Pity us. Maybe when they will add on the district something, quarter, maybe it will come up to about 30 or 40. You see that? Those days we could sit in any school, Samuel Becker. St. Aloysius. We had only 16 secondary schools those days. And out of these 16, I think about 8 were having higher school certificate education. So you can see the disparity between now and then. So, remembering what happened to me during my early days, primary education, when I was in P3, I had the opportunity to be chosen to read a message and to parade my fellow classmates before the bishop, Catholic bishop of northern Uganda, by that time northern Uganda diocese, which includes Karamojo, West Nile, Acholi, Lango. So it was the first time for a white bishop to visit our school in Agweng. So I was selected among the young men to parade, to command the parade, and to give a small written speech before the bishop. And my father was in attendance. As a soldier, he loved the way I performed there. And when I went back home in the evening, he said, that was the great thing. I did it when I was young in the King's African Rifle. And he was very proud of me on that particular day. So when we went to Aloy Ongom Junior 1-2, another luck struck on me. I was chosen among the 35 students or pupils who were at that school to read a message from the school before Sir Frederick Crawford, the last governor of Uganda, 1957. And I performed so well because I was coached by that time he was not yet a bishop, was Reverend Father Kaingire, who became the bishop of Northern Uganda sometimes back, the late. We were 35 people in a classroom, and in our year, 32 of us got first class, first grade, to go to the next stage of senior secondary school. So we passed very well. I was admitted in 2 secondary schools, Sir Samuel Becker and St. Leo's, Fort Portal. We were the first from St. Leo's to begin settling at the present Chegobe Hill. From Virika, we moved to Chegobe Hill, and that was the first year which Chegobe Hill became a secondary school, replacing Virika downhill. So I was there for 4 years. By 1962, when we were receiving our independence flag, I was a witness as a student at the bomber ground near Mount Rwenzori Hotel in Fort Portal when the flag of Uganda went up and the British flag came down. By that time, it was only the British police officers who took down their flag, and another senior police officer who was an African, I think at the rank of either chief constable or something like that. I didn't know their rank by that time. He was the one who put up our flags after the British flag coming down. So that was another thing I witnessed when I was at St. Leo's. Well, I didn't do very well, I must say, with a lot of confidence, because I had some illness that disturbed me. So instead, I chose to go to St. Leo's. I chose to go to Bokalaza Cooperative College for a certificate course in cooperatives. I was employed by the cooperative department, that is the government of Uganda, for a couple of years after my studies in Bukalasa. And then I was co-opted in Lao Cooperative Union because there was manpower demand to take care of the growing cooperative movement by that time. So when I joined Lao Cooperative Union, they sent me for further studies for my diploma course in Denmark. So I finished my course in Denmark. I came back and I worked for about a year or 2 with the Lao Cooperative Union and joined the army in 1967. So while there, I had my qualification certificate in cooperative and then a diploma in cooperative management from Denmark in what they used to call Rural Development College, Holt. That's about 30 kilometers away from Copenhagen, the city of Denmark. I had a very good time there because there were very few African students. We were only 3 from Uganda and living in different parts of Scandinavian countries. One person was called Kiria from eastern Uganda. He was doing engineering in one of the universities in Sweden. And then there was one called Nyanzi, Paul Nyanzi. Paul Nyanzi was doing his also cooperative course in Norway, and I was in Denmark. So we were the 3 people, but we used to visit each other every weekend. And I had the opportunity to have some gifted English language. So the senior citizens of Denmark, when you reach the age of 70, you are taken to a place where they call home for the elderly. That is the government looking after the elderly in a very highly organized estate where every old man has his own facilities, and the children can visit them anytime they want. But the Danish government was a sort of a social government by that time. So they were looking after the children. So one day when one of their people working in the departments of social services in Denmark came to visit our college, he had the opportunity to meet me. And I talked to him in English. I said, "You have very good English. Where did you go?" I said, "Well, I went to several schools. I went to Russia. I studied in Britain. I went also to the United States of America. So I know many languages, but English is my specialty." So he said, "Would you have time to come over the weekend and, talk about Africa to some of these homes? And we will pay you per hour of your talking to the elderly." So every weekend I was engaged from Friday evening to Sunday evening. And they would give me very good accommodation, keep me there. I entertained those people with some old stories of African stories. And the old men would be so much interested. They would ask me to go back every time. And my name came all over the place in their newspaper. I don't remember the name of the newspaper, a national newspaper of Denmark, about my time with the elderly in their homes. So when I came back, I worked briefly continued working with Uganda, Lango Cooperative Union, and had the opportunity to be identified by Dr. Apple Milton Obote himself when he came to Lao in 1967, after the new constitution of Uganda that made him the president of Uganda. And he had not been away for almost 2 years without visiting Uganda because of the problem in Buganda. From 65 up to 67, he had now time to come to visit his home. So when he came, I was a member of the organizing committee, the youngest member of the organizing committee, co-opted by Lao Cooperative Union to join the Lao District Administration team to organize the coming of the president. And when the time came for introducing the organizing committee, I happened to be the youngest of all those people who were introduced. And the president got interested in me. Sent his aide came to ask the particulars about me. And I gave 2 days later, I was called in Kampala, and I found myself joining the army. So that is how I got into Uganda Army, 1967, on the 16th of October, 1967.